The woman tried not wearing underwear for the first time while hunting. Although she successfully caught an old man, she was caught by the demon slayer Hyakkimaru. He drew his dual swords and rushed forward, saving the old man and injuring the spider demon's legs. Faced with defeat, the spider demon used spider silk to trap Hyakkimaru and made a hasty escape. Since she couldn't absorb enough human essence, she had to use spider silk to wrap her body and sustain herself. The next day, she was found by a villager passing by. The man saw her pale and weak. He took pity on her and saved her. The man's name is Jiro. He was a worker at the quarry in this village. But when Jiro asked her name, she wouldn't tell him anything. Helpless, Jiro named her Kugi. Strangely, Kugi seemed unfamiliar with rice. However, after taking a bite, she found it delicious. Jiro had never met such an interesting girl and decided to let her stay. Even though it meant tighter finances with one more mouth to feed, he believed it was a gift from heaven, and as long as he took care of Kugi, she might fall in love with him eventually. When Jiro saw a cockroach in the bowl, he immediately caught it and released it outside before continuing to serve Kugi a bowl of rice. In Jiro's eyes, the life of insects was just as valuable as that of humans. Kugi encountered such a man for the first time and marveled at how special he was. However, when night fell, Kugi transformed into her yokai form, preparing to secretly consume Jiro's essence. But just as she was about to act, she hesitated and turned back to finish the remaining rice instead. She didn't know why she did that, but she didn't want to harm such a kind-hearted man. However, consuming rice didn't heal her wounds, it only made her more haggard. Jiro worried that if things continued like this, she might lose her life. Unfortunately, the village had no doctors or traveling medicine vendors. Leaving the village seemed to be their only option, but recently villagers had been mysteriously disappearing. The village had already organized nighttime patrols, making it necessary for them to take the longest detour to avoid being caught. On their journey, they unexpectedly encountered Hyakkimaru. Taamaru warned Jiro to quickly distance himself from the woman as she was actually a yokai called the Yokai Bride. Jiro had just recovered from his shock. The next moment, he was in front of Kugi, because he believed she was a kind yokai. Otherwise, he would have already become her meal. But now she was sick and needed treatment. Jiro pleaded for them to be allowed to pass. However, at that moment, the patrol unit discovered them. As they charged forward to kill Kugi, they all became trapped in her spider silk, becoming her food. Absorbing too much human essence, Kugi once again emitted a strong aura of evil, catching Hyakkimaru's attention. Just as he prepared to attack, Kugi's spider silk restrained him. This time, she didn't continue the slaughter but instead left with Jiro. They planned to use the spider silk to escape from the area, but Jiro's presence seemed to be a burden. During their rest, Kugi finally confessed her true identity to Jiro. It turned out she was a spider demon who had lived for several hundred years. However, she had never killed anyone nor had any intention to harm humans. Each time, she only absorbed half of a human's life force and could fully recover with a few days of rest. At that moment, Kugi suddenly questioned Jiro, asking if he would still be willing to live with her despite knowing the truth. Jiro knew that she was a kind demon, so instead of being captured and returned to the village, he wanted to live with her as her food. Upon hearing this peculiar response, Kugi found Jiro to be a very interesting person. However, just as they were about to continue their journey, they were once again attacked by a military unit. Witnessing Jiro in a critical state, Kugi had never felt such anger before. She wanted all the humans there to accompany her beloved in death. She ultimately transformed into the most fearsome form that humans dreaded and launched a one-sided massacre against the soldiers. Even Hyakkimaru, who had just arrived, was no match for Kugi. Surprisingly, instead of continuing her attack, Kugi shifted her focus to observing Jiro's injuries. She realized that if things continued this way, Jiro would eventually leave her. However, she had to eliminate the immediate obstacle in front of her. Just as the two sides were about to engage in battle once again, Jiro stopped her. He didn't want Kugi to continue killing because he didn't want to witness her completely turning into a demon. Finally, Kugi regained her sanity, and the murderous intent gradually faded from her. Hyakkimaru, seeing this, decided not to continue the fight and allowed the two of them to pass through the only exit that led out of the village. In this world, there are good and bad people, and yokai also have their share of good and evil. Learning to discern between good and evil is actually a way to survive in this world. The village had been suffering from a severe drought for 3 years without any rain. However, on the second day, something strange happened. A wriggling black cloud mysteriously froze in the sky. Instead of rain, it released countless ashes upon the village. The village chief immediately knew that a monster was about to descend upon their land. He quickly gathered all the girls who had just turned 18 in the village. The village had a legend about a ghostly deity. Whenever a black cloud appeared, a large number of people in the surrounding area would inexplicably go missing. The elders said it was a demonic presence, and to appease its wrath, the villagers would send a bride to become the devil's bride. Since then, every time such a situation occurred, one girl from the village would be chosen as the bride of the demon. This time, the new candidate had already been selected. They dressed in white gowns, but the bride's face no longer held any trace of a smile. A boy, dressed in animal skins, tried his best to stop them, but Dororo intercepted him. Dororo mistakenly believed he was disrupting someone's wedding. After learning the truth, Dororo realized his mistake and revealed that he was a professional exorcist. He claimed that his elder brother could slay any monster, as long as they paid a certain fee. Seeing Dororo's confident demeanor, the boy, Ain, offered a gold nugget as a down payment and hired Hyakkimaru for the rescue mission. They easily defeated the guards. Ain untied the ropes binding his sister, but when they were about to take her away, his sister strongly opposed them. She claimed that she voluntarily helped the village. Suddenly, a monster appeared. In an instant, it devoured two villagers. Dororo quickly called for Hyakkimaru to intervene, but Hyakkimaru showed no reaction at all. It turned out that in his perception, the entire dark cloud emitted the aura of the monster. This made it impossible for Hyakkimaru, who had no vision, to know where to start. Suddenly, the centipede demon appeared, targeting Ain. In the nick of time, his sister gave her life to save Ain. Such a powerful monster was not something Hyakkimaru could handle alone, but the water column that erupted by accident, illuminating the centipede demon with sunlight. Although it completely frightened the monster away, Ain's sister could never return. Originally, they were not true siblings. Ain lost his parents as soon as he was born. The only inheritance left was this house in the mountains. Every day, he survived by hunting wild animals. He was also afraid of interacting with strangers, but the villagers used his status as an outsider as an excuse to burn down Ain's house, forbidding him from hunting and enjoying the resources in the mountains. He was treated like a rat on the street, with everyone calling for his punishment. At his lowest point, it was this unfamiliar sister who helped him clean his wounds. Since then, Ain had been secretly observing this person. Every time he saw his big sister, he could forget about fatigue and worries, and he didn't know when. He had already silently accepted the existence of his gentle sister. As the story continued, Dororo became more and more moved, and was determined to avenge Ain's sister. However, Hyakkimaru had no way to deal with the monster. To kill the monster, they could only rely on the two of them now. Dororo disguised herself as a bride this time, luring the centipede demon to appear. Dororo immediately hid in a safe place. It was time for Ain to take action. He used arrows to ignite the sulfur nearby. Under the blue flames, they just needed to wait quietly for the smoke to disperse. But what they didn't realize was that the cunning centipede had only shed a shell, and the black smoke allowed it to replenish itself. Dororo was completely desperate, but at that moment, Hyakkimaru arrives. He shot 3 arrows at the centipede demon, not to attack, but to locate its position by sound. Then he swiftly struck down the monster with his sword, cutting it in half. This was Hyakkimaru's ability to rival a god of war. After they eliminated the monster, Ain's sister appeared in the river. She didn't die, and she embraced Ain. We don't know if they will live happily ever after, but Hyakkimaru regained his nose in this battle, and the first breath he took was filled with the pungent smell of sulfur. This also became a major shadow in Hyakkimaru's life.